In this lecture, we will learn about the Boolean data type and how to work with it in Python. We already got a brief look at Booleans in Python. There are two values that a Boolean can have, true and false. Note that in Python it is very important to ensure that true is spelled with a capital T and false is spelled with a capital F, or else your code will not work. Here's an example of how to create a variable named bool1 and assign it a value of true. Here is another example of creating a variable named bool2 and assigning it a value of false. Similar to how we learned about the int function in the last lecture that we used to convert a floating point value into an integer, Python gives us the bool function. To use the bool function, we pass in any value and then Python will convert it into its Boolean value. This part of the tutorial gets pretty interesting. For example, what is the Boolean value equivalent of 1? Let's pass 1 into the bool function and output it to the console using Python's print function. When we run the code, you will notice that true is printed out to the console. Any number, positive or negative, will evaluate to a Boolean value of true. For example, let's pass in -1 and then run the code. You will notice that true is output again to the console. 0 is the only number that evaluates to a Boolean value of false. To illustrate this example, let's cast 0 to a Boolean using Python's bool function and then run the code. As you can see, false was output to the console. Collections in Python can also be converted to Boolean values. I know we haven't talked too much about collections yet. The following lecture on lists will start off a series of lectures on each of the collections that Python supports. An empty collection evaluates to false. A collection with anything in it evaluates to true. For example, we can pass an empty list into the bool function and print out the result to the console. When we run the code, you will notice that false was output. Now let's add the string literals A, B, and C to our list. Now when we run the code, notice that true was output to the console. In the next lecture, we will learn about what a collection is and the different types of collections supported by the Python programming language.